After a full half season of waiting, we finally see Anne confront her loss of her friends Sasha and Marcy, whom she has not seen since she went to Earth. We've never seen her mention them except for a little bit at the end of the new normal, and once when she offhandedly mentions Marcy in regards to Marcy's journal, which she just happens to have. But we have not seen her actually process what happened to her friends, how they might not be alive, and how she has a lot of complicated feelings toward them, and she knows the relationship between them has kind of dissolved to an extent. They still care about each other, but that relationship has changed. And there's a lot she has to think about. There are other layers to her friends' lives that she's not quite thinking about, and that we, the audience, should think about, such as how this episode implies that Sasha's parents might be divorced, which I will get into in this analysis. But we've not actually seen her seriously contemplating or even being evasive over what happened to her friends. Instead, we've seen her focus a lot more on all the adventures she's been having. And whether those adventures are connected to the plot or not, there is still a sense that something was missing, that emotional connection to the people she really cares about. I mean, she cares about the planters, but she loves her friends too. And now in Froggy Little Christmas, we finally get her working through her lonely, desperate, quiet thoughts about what happened to her friends. She writes letters to Marcy and Sasha's parents assuring them that their daughters are safe, an assertion she has no evidence whatsoever to back up, and she does not even sign her name to these letters. Considering this, I doubt either Marcy's parents or Sasha's parents will be very comforted by these letters they receive from Anne, but it's nonetheless a good step to see Anne taking. So it'll be interesting to see how she deals with the fallout from her separation from her friends, if in fact she is going to deal with it, as it looks like she is going to be in Season 3B. But I'd also like to note that we see perhaps confirmation that Sasha's parents are divorced. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on for this video. We see her write only one letter to Marcy's parents, but we see her write two different letters to Sasha's mother and Sasha's father. This is an intentional artistic decision, and Sasha's parents being divorced is the most likely and sensible explanation of it. Now, I do not want to too directly connect her parents being divorced to her personality and her worldview, but it would also be a mistake to assume that her upbringing had no effect whatsoever on her general ideas about the world and her behavior and her values. Sasha clearly suffers from a lack of emotional support and general warmth. When we see Sasha berate Anne's parents and Anne's close relationship with her parents, this cannot really be considered a reflection on Anne's parents, because we've seen Anne's parents and they're perfectly nice and sweet people. Anne has a wonderful family. So it should instead be considered a projection of Sasha's own anxieties and antagonism toward her own parents. They were not there for her. They did not provide her with the support and comfort she needs. That she is precocious, independently driven, and quite amoral at the start of Amphibia also makes a lot more sense in the context of her being deprived of real love and compassion, and just that sense of stability that a strong family can provide a kid. She yearns for the strong connection she does not have at home, and because of this, she is willing to take on this almost super heroic role in always fighting for her friends, always being this brave knight for those she believes need her assistance in order to demonstrate that she's worthy and deserving of their love and friendship, which is both understandable and kind of sad. Lacking a warm and caring home life, she's forced to take care of herself, which she does quite effectively. She's smart, she's practical, and she's cunning, but she's also lonely. She has an unsatiated desire for connections, and so she's desperate to be a good friend, even though she is not particularly great at being a good friend, as we see from the conflicts that arise between her and Anne and Marcy. All of this, I think, is quite clear at this point in the series. Now, of course, I want to clarify that there is no one singular model for how a child of divorced parents should act. Every divorce is different, and divorces are quite common. There are many divorced parents who are able to give their kids the love and affection and emotional support those kids really desperately need. Sasha's parents do not seem to have been in this group, though. This is not her situation. She is bitter and resentful to her parents for reasons that include the divorce and the trauma and shock it must have been for her, but should not be considered limited to the divorce and its direct impacts on her. The aftermath of the divorce, the lack of stability and certainty in her home life, seems like it affected her more than the divorce itself. Now, if we are to believe that Sasha's parents getting divorced directly affected her personality and worldview, then this divorce must have happened a long time ago, because we see from the flashbacks we get of Sasha that she was very much the same person back then that she is now. Albeit she was a little sweeter and cuter about it because she was a little kid and she didn't have that harder edge that she's developed as a teenager. But the basic driving force behind her character, that desire to protect those she believes need protecting in order to gain their support and their trust and prove herself worthy of the kind of love and friendship she really seeks, that is present in Sasha's character back from the first appearance chronologically we have of her when she's a little kid on the playground trying to defend Anne and Marcy from bullies. If, however, one considers that Sasha's parents divorced significantly after the first time we see Sasha as a little kid, then one should think that Sasha's parents getting divorced affected her in subtler ways, perhaps encouraging tendencies that had already developed in Sasha, and pushing these tendencies to unhealthy extremes, but not creating these tendencies in her out of nothing. Her manipulative tendencies, her desperate desire to please, her yearning for close connections she's kind of bad at forming, all of these perhaps were present in her before, but they were just exaggerated by the shock of her parents getting divorced. Now, divorce does tend to be killing for kids, especially young teens and tweens who see this as the sense of stability and certainty they really need in their lives being taken away at a time when they're stuck between childhood and adolescence going into adulthood, and they're completely confused and desperate and looking for answers, and to have that sense of stability taken away when they need it the most can be very shocking. But nonetheless, there is still a marked difference between the divorce of two people who are sweet and caring and basically good people who nonetheless cannot make a marriage work, and a divorce between two people who are resentful and selfish and self-indulgent and who do not seem to love their kid any more than they love each other. I would be shocked if Sasha's parents end up being normal, relatively well-adjusted, and kind-hearted people who just happen to get a divorce, like we see with Tulip's parents in Infinity Train. The divorce may have further eroded Sasha's trust in her parents, and it may have further confirmed, at least subconsciously, that her parents don't really care about her, but that feeling that her parents don't care about her cannot really be pinned to any one event, and it is probably based in her personal experiences of being neglected and not having her parents really show her the affection and love that she really needs. In other words, not all divorced families are broken families by any means, but Sasha's definitely is. She is a person whose parents did not provide her a stable and fertile environment for her development and her growth as a person. This is not only the fault of the divorce, but it couldn't have helped. I don't think her parents are cruel or comically abusive like we see with the Northwests, or even to a lesser degree with the Blights and the Owl House, but there was not a lot of love in that family. I think that's pretty clear at this point. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can. You want to see more videos like this. What do y'all want to see from Season 3B? Season 3A was a little uneven and inconsistent and frequently frustrating, but it ended on a strong note, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where they go from here. So, I'm interested to see where y'all think the show should go from this point onward. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. That I can promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.